Welcome to day two of this 4-day series, The Influence of Energy. This is going to be a way shorter lesson in comparison to yesterday's lesson, day one. Let's get into it. Now, this is a very important lesson, just like yesterday's lesson, and it really compounds, adds on to yesterday's lesson as well. So, the influence of energy. The body's survival instinct does not like to use up energy. It will go the path of least energy possible to reserve energy. As an energy consumer, the brain is the most expensive organ we carry around with us, says Dr. Marcus Rachel, a distinguished professor of medicine. And while the brain represents just 2% of a person's total body weight, it accounts for 20% of the body's energy use. Now, this is just to maintain the body's average. We're using up a lot of energy all the time throughout the entire day. So, if you were looking to change a pattern and create new neural pathways, prepare for a major increase in energy consumption. The amount of energy needed will depend entirely on the rate of change. Plus, not only just about the brain, but we use up to 30% of our body's energy just to digest food. So, failure to increase energy intake while starting a new habit or changing a pattern will cause the body to resist and rebel. You simply won't feel like it. The less energy we have, the more we will fall back into our already established habits or neural pathways because the path of least resistance is in the pathways that have already been formed, just like a rut. If you have a rut, a tire in a rut, the path of least resistance is going to be going in the lowest part of that rut straight. It's going to take energy to get out of that rut, going back and forth, and finally, you get up out of that rut. It takes a lot of energy. And the amount of months it took me to finally figure this out is astonishing. Once I figured it out, I'm like, wow, well, transformation is actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So let me ask you a simple question here. When you feel good and have an excess amount of energy, do you find it easier to be spontaneous, to start something new, or to take actions you normally wouldn't when you feel a little bit more tired or off, right? When you have lots of energy, when you have tons of energy, it's pretty easy to get into motion. It's pretty easy to do something that you normally wouldn't do. And that is the point. So, comparing the difference between excess energy versus lack of energy. Comparing the difference between a clean and detox body and toxified or polluted body. There's a major difference there as well. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for health foods nowadays and detoxing. I mean, I just know the power of it and I know how it makes me feel. And when I'm detoxed and have a clean body, eating clean, oh my God, do I have an amazing amount of energy. I could wake up first thing in the morning at like 5 a.m. and I could go all the way to 10:30 p.m. nonstop. And I'm still, I barely have, I barely feel tired. I'm fueled. I'm engaged. My mind is just on fire with just accessing an amazing amount of brain power, accessing a great amount of thought processing. And it's just so powerful how a person can really level up their life. And so we want excessive energy, life force foods, foods that have the highest output of life force or energy. So when you are looking to break free from patterns, limitations, break free from any type of self-sabotage, I mean, first of all, it's really good to change your perspective, understand, okay, who are you? Who are you deeming yourself to be? And looking at that, why are you perceiving yourself the way you are? And how can you begin to shift that? Well, once you start shifting and questioning that differently and starting to perceive yourself differently, gathering more information, well, now you're using up more brain power. Now you're using up way more brain processing energy than you were not long ago. And so if you don't level up your food intake with life force foods or greater amount of energy output, you're simply not going to continue on with that. You're going to get so far and say, oh, it's too much work or too much brain processing. Oh, I don't feel like, because your body's always trying to reserve energy. And so this is really important to have. I mean, even self-sabotage when, we're going and building a business or doing something and we get so far and then all of a sudden it's like we just collapse it all and self-sabotage a lot of the time because there is a fear, or we just don't feel like it anymore, or we have a limited amount of energy and we realize we're just getting busier and busier. And success, we may have definitions of success means being too busy or overwhelmed. If we get overwhelmed, all of a sudden we're using up too much energy and our body's going to self-sabotage that. So it's really important to have excessive energy for brain processing power, and then also understanding how your body really sets the tone for a lot of things in life. So I'll go back to that for a second. So I love sprouts. Sprouts are my number one food, and I also love cacao. As you can see the difference, organic mushroom versus conventional mushroom, organic broccoli versus conventional broccoli. And there's a cooked baby carrot versus raw baby carrot. There's all these comparisons, and it all has its play. And so I'm just going to share a lot about sprouts because I mean, once I got into sprouting, I completely changed my whole framework of transformation. So, just a question, does it make sense to eat food sources that have high and sustaining output of energy, and I'm not talking about sugar, or low to no output of energy? This is boxed foods, little to no life force. High vibrational foods, high life force foods. Think life force. Think how fresh, just like picking a fresh apple off a tree or a fresh pear, or picking a fresh vegetable right out of the garden and eating it. Fresh greens, legumes, and then also seeds. But here's the thing, most nuts and seeds that people eat are not activated, they're dormant. A lot of the time, they have chemicals that fight off insects from eating them. What happens is that actually is toxic in a lot of cases, and so it toxifies the body. So when I'm talking about activating nuts and seeds, I'm basically taking those nuts and seeds and soaking them in water, as most nuts and seeds are dormant otherwise. What happens when they soak in water? All of a sudden, they start sprouting. All of a sudden, those uh, very toxic chemicals on the outer coating start to transform. They transform in these phytonutrients. And so same with sprouts. And I'm not talking about alfalfa sprouts. I personally avoid alfalfa sprouts. It's a type of grass, and our stomachs are not truly designed to digest grass. So ideally, sprouts like mung bean, radish, broccoli, sun shoots, all of those are going to be incredibly ideal. Chia seeds, soaked chia seeds, soaked flax seeds, all of those are really good to do. If you could sprout it and figure out how to do that, then it's better for you. Then, of course, there are healthy fats, coconut, avocado, olives, fresh flaxseed, etc. All of these things that are closest, that have the highest amount of life force energy you could get to. This is going to completely change the way that you all of a sudden act in the world. So it is also important to get necessary rest, 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night is optimal, depending who you are and how much energy output you have. I know I was getting down to 6.5 hours of sleep, and that was sustaining me really well. Take naps or meditate, 20 to 35 minutes mid to late day if you're beginning to slow down and lose momentum. Because once you slow down and lose momentum, what happens is you start to revert back to your old patterns. And so if you're, slowing down, take 20 minutes, go and sit and meditate or have a quick nap because that's going to rejuvenate you so much more than all of a sudden you'll have way more energy and you'll actually be able to start doing things a lot more. You can continue to transform yourself, push through that personal change. You'll have a lot more energy for it. So, to improve sleep at night, I practice a full body relaxation right before I go to bed because a lot of the time the body can really store stress, and too much stress is a stagnant sea of energy. And when energy can't circulate properly, it just throws the whole body out of whack. Black out your bedroom, zero light pollution. There are a lot of studies on this now. I am a huge component of this. And then, of course, keep all plug-in electronics away from your bed. Again, there's a lot of studies. Avoid blue light 1 hour before bed, and avoid all small LED lights in your bedroom. I went back to incandescents myself for various reasons. And then, of course, turn your phone on airplane mode if you can. One idea you could do is put an automatic timer plug-in on the house or the Wi-Fi router, so it shuts off at night when you go to sleep and it turns back on when you awaken. Our brain is 80 to 90% water-based. It conducts electricity signals through neurons, right? And so when we want to get into a deep, deep, deep sleep that's very rejuvenating, we want our brainwave state to be very slow, delta frequency, which is zero point 0.3 hertz, right? And electronics is 60 hertz. And so quite a big difference. So the high pitch frequencies close to our head, or the lights that are high pitch frequency that go through our nervous system, through our eyes, it all has an impact on our nervous system. Test it out for a week. Don't take this all just based on what I'm saying. Experiment with it. When I first heard about this type of information, I was skeptical, yes, but I tested it. I experimented. I was shutting off Wi-Fi at night. I did that for a week and I noticed an incredibly powerful difference in my sleeping cycles. It took 3 days for my body to adjust, but I noticed a huge impact on that. Blue light, LED bulbs in the bedroom. I got rid of them all and I noticed a huge change in my sleep patterns. And, light pollution is massive. So, don't take my word for it, experiment yourself. And you'll find that, if you're really serious about bringing yourself to a new level, getting into a powerful personal development routine that just completely transforms your entire life over multiple times if you want, or just keep on going, then you'll really be wanting to look at all of these things that I'm sharing because it does have quite an impact. It could be a very subtle impact, but when you start compounding these things all together, now all of a sudden you're going to see a huge difference in your energy levels and you're just going to want to keep going. So be sure to have enough energy so when you're awake and aware, you have enough energy to continuously change towards a higher potential with ease. If you feel like you're running out of energy, it will be easier for you to slip back into already established habits or patterns. So thinking differently compared to your patterns, your old patterns of thinking, takes brain power. Changing perspectives takes brain power. It is really a practice that gets easier with more practice. With transformation, it is necessary to have lots of extra energy, especially at first, especially just to bring yourself out of that rut, to start conditioning the way of how you could think, conditioning your way of changing perspectives. Once you start to establish those neural networks, of, oh, hey, here's one situation. How many ways can I see this one situation? How many ways can I conclude that one situation? And then, evaluating all of that. Once you start to get those neural patterns going and you start to get used to the way of thinking like that and thinking of how do I perceive myself in this situation? How can I perceive myself? How can I change the way I perceive myself in this situation? Once you establish those neural networks, now all of a sudden you don't need to have such a big energy intake. Now all of a sudden you could slow down on the energy intake and start to sustain what you have. So just at first, within the first month, highly recommend getting into a high vibrational life force foods, or start eating high vibrational life force foods. And then once you sustain and get into a new pattern, then you could slowly reduce that amount, go back to your old eating patterns if you want. So, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. I would just really love that quote because it's true. It's not about the goal, it's about who you become when achieving or while achieving your goal. That is it for this lesson. Hope you had a lot of great insights. Bye for now.